What if the very thing you were taught to avoid could actually help you stay vibrant, vital, and alive well into your later years? What if I told you that something most men avoid talking about, something often wrapped in silence, guilt, or even shame, might actually hold the key to preserving not just your sexual function, but your overall vitality as you age? Yes, I'm talking about masturbation. I know, for many of us raised in a different time, that word alone brings discomfort. Maybe you were taught to see it as something private, embarrassing, or even wrong. And maybe, after a certain age, you felt like it just didn't apply to you anymore, that it was part of a younger man's life. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? I'm Dr. Bennett. I spent over 30 years working in men's health, sitting face to face with men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've heard their concerns, their regrets, their silent questions. And one of the most painful myths I see holding them back is this: I'm too old. This part of my life is over. Let me be clear. It's not. Your body, especially your penis, doesn't suddenly stop working because of a number on your birthday cake. In fact, whether you feel desire or not, your body is still sending signals, still functioning behind the scenes. But like any system in the body, it needs use. It needs attention. It needs care. You see, after 60, a man's sexual health becomes more than just pleasure. It becomes preservation. Without regular stimulation, blood flow slows, tissues lose elasticity, hormones dip, and vital glands like the prostate can become stagnant. These changes don't happen overnight, and they're not irreversible, but ignoring them comes at a cost. A quiet, creeping cost that too many men only notice when something stops working. So why aren't we talking about this? Why do we treat self-pleasure like a dirty secret instead of what it actually is? A biological function, a form of maintenance, a message to your body that you're still alive and still connected. The truth is, masturbation, especially as we age, isn't about lust. It's about health. It's about choosing to engage with your body, to honor the systems that still work, and to keep them working for as long as possible. And when done with intention, without shame, it becomes a powerful tool for physical and emotional renewal. In this session, I'm going to share 6 real, science-backed changes that happen to your body when you masturbate after 60. Some of them may surprise you. One of them may even change the way you look at aging altogether. But before we dive in, I want to offer you this. If you've ever felt like your body was quietly slipping away from you, or like your health no longer mattered because of your age, please know this: it's not too late. You're not fading, you're evolving. Let's begin this journey, not out of shame, but out of strength. Let's begin with something your body depends on more than you may realize. Blood flow. When we're young, we rarely think about it. Erections come easily, the body responds quickly, and everything seems to just work. But as the years go by, things start to shift. And one of the first systems to feel that shift is your circulation, especially in the smallest, most delicate vessels, like those in the penis. What most men don't know is this: sexual activity, even solo, helps protect the blood flow that keeps your penis alive. I don't mean metaphorically, I mean biologically. Let me tell you a quick story. A man came to see me a few years ago, 68 years old, retired teacher. He sat across from me and asked, "Is it too late to care about this stuff?" He wasn't being flippant, he was frustrated. He had noticed changes, softer erections, less sensation, and a growing sense of distance from his own body. And beneath it all was a quiet question: am I still allowed to care about this? I looked him in the eye and said, "It's never too late. But it does take understanding, and it takes action." Here's what happens. Every time you become aroused, your body sends a surge of blood through your pelvic region. That's not just about pleasure, it's about preservation. The blood carries oxygen and nutrients to the erectile chambers, called the corpus cavernosum, and keeps those tissues healthy, responsive, and full of life. But when sexual activity stops altogether, when there's no stimulation, no arousal, no blood flow, those tissues slowly begin to break down. They lose elasticity. The vessels stiffen. Over time, the penis itself can shrink, not from age, but from disuse. That's why masturbation, especially as we grow older, becomes more than just a moment of release. It becomes a kind of biological workout. Every erection, every climax, signals your body to maintain the system. It tells your blood vessels, stay open. It tells your tissues, stay alive. It tells your brain, this still matters. And let's be honest, it does. This isn't about ego or performance. It's about staying connected to your body and giving it the stimulus it needs to keep functioning as it was meant to. So if you've been wondering whether you should even bother, let me say this clearly. You absolutely should. You are not being vain. You are not being silly. You are not too old. You are a man with a living body, and that body needs blood, movement, and attention to stay strong. The act may seem simple, but the impact? It's profound. And that's only the beginning. Because what happens next, after the blood flows, is a cleansing process most men never hear about. But once you understand it, it might explain some of the discomfort you've quietly lived with for years. Let's talk about that next. Now that we've talked about blood flow, let's take it a step further, because what happens after that rush of blood might be even more important than you think. There's something I hear behind closed doors all the time, a quiet confession. Doc, I get this weird pressure down there. It's not pain exactly, more like fullness, heaviness. Sometimes my testicles feel sore, or like something's just stuck. Sound familiar? You're not alone. In fact, this is one of the most common complaints I hear from men over 60, and it's one that's rarely addressed in mainstream health conversations. But the cause is surprisingly simple. Your system isn't being fleshed out. Let me explain. Your body constantly produces seminal fluid, yes, even as you age. The prostate, seminal vesicles, and other glands don't just shut down with retirement. They slow, yes, but they still work. And like any plumbing system, if that fluid isn't regularly cleared, it starts to build up. Over time, that leads to pressure in the lower abdomen, testicular discomfort, pelvic heaviness, and sometimes even inflammation or infection. Your body was never designed to store old fluid forever. It's built for flow, for renewal. And when you ejaculate, whether through sex or masturbation, you're not just releasing tension, you're literally cleaning out your system. Think of it like flushing out the pipes in an old house. If water doesn't run through regularly, sediment builds, pressure mounts, valves stick, and eventually, something breaks. I had a patient once who hadn't ejaculated in almost a year. He came in complaining of chronic heaviness and a constant ache in his groin. After ruling out anything serious, I asked him gently, "When was the last time you had any release?" He looked down, embarrassed, and said, "It's been a while, Doc." We talked openly. He started making time for regular self-stimulation, and within weeks, that discomfort he thought was part of aging was gone. This isn't magic. It's maintenance. It's biology doing what it's meant to do, as long as you give it the chance. Ignoring this part of your health because of shame, outdated beliefs, or the idea that you're too old doesn't protect you, it sets you up for problems. Chronic prostatitis, urinary discomfort, even a weakened immune response in your pelvic region. So if you've been living with that quiet heaviness, that nagging feeling of pressure or fullness down there, please don't dismiss it. Your body is trying to tell you something. And the solution? It might be simpler than you think. Ejaculation is not just about sex. It's about keeping the pathways of your body clear and functioning. It's about giving your system the signal, we're still alive, we're still flowing, we still matter. And once that pressure lifts, once your system resets, something deeper begins to shift, not just in the body, but in the brain. Let's explore that next. By now, you've seen how physical stimulation impacts your blood flow and clears your system, but there's something else happening. Something quieter, deeper, and in many ways, more powerful. I'm talking about hormonal harmony. When men talk about aging, they usually focus on the outside, wrinkles, joint pain, slower movement. But what's happening inside, especially hormonally, can have just as much, if not more, impact on your quality of life. I've had men sit across from me and say things like, "Doc, I don't feel like myself anymore. I'm not depressed, but I'm flat. Like I'm drifting. I wake up tired. I go to bed tired. I don't know what's missing. What they're describing isn't weakness. It's often a gradual, quiet drop in key hormones, especially testosterone. And here's the surprising part. Regular sexual stimulation, even solo, can help restore balance. You see, when you engage in sexual activity and reach climax, your brain doesn't just reward you with a pleasant feeling. It initiates a hormonal cascade, a reset that touches every part of your well-being. Testosterone, the core hormone of male vitality, gets a boost. This supports muscle tone, mental clarity, motivation, and, yes, sexual drive. Dopamine floods the reward centers of your brain. It's the feel-good chemical that helps you experience pleasure, satisfaction, and a sense of purpose. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, rises too. Even in solo activity, it can promote a feeling of calm, connection, and groundedness. And then there are the endorphins, your body's natural painkillers and mood elevators. They ease tension, lift anxiety, and help you sleep better. These are not small effects. These hormones are your body's built-in medicine cabinet, and activating them regularly helps regulate mood, reduce stress, and even improve physical healing. This is especially important for older men, many of whom silently struggle with anxiety, irritability, or low mood, but never talk about it, because it doesn't feel manly to admit those feelings. But here's the truth. There is nothing weak about wanting to feel whole. There is nothing unmanly about working to restore balance. You don't need to chase some youthful high. You simply need to give your body the signal it's been waiting for. You're still here. You still matter. You're still allowed to feel good. When your hormones are in sync, everything shifts. Your sleep deepens. Your focus sharpens. Your motivation returns. And your sense of self, your true presence, comes back online. So if you've been feeling off, disconnected, like something's missing but you can't name it, this may be the missing piece. Not a pill, not a prescription. Just a quiet, private act of self-care that helps restore the very chemistry of life. And once that clarity returns, so does your strength. Let's explore how the body responds next, with a part of you most men never think about until it stops working. Let me tell you about a patient who changed the way I see this next part. He was in his early 70s, quiet, polite, thoughtful. He sat down, took a long breath, and said, "Doctor, I still feel everything. The desire's still there. But it's like my body can't follow through anymore." I hear this more often than you'd think. And what most men don't realize is that it's not just about hormones or age. It's about muscles, specifically your pelvic floor. These are the deep, often forgotten muscles at the base of your body. They're the same ones you engage when you stop the flow of urine midstream, and they play a vital role in your sexual function, especially during ejaculation and maintaining erections. When you reach climax, these muscles contract in rhythmic pulses. They provide power, control, and support. But over time, just like any muscle that doesn't get used, they weaken. And when that happens, you may notice softer erections, less control, even urinary leakage. Coughful. The good news? You can train them. And the even better news, masturbation helps. Every time you stimulate yourself to climax, you're not just triggering blood flow or hormone release. You're activating and strengthening the very muscles that support your manhood. It's like going to the gym, but for a part of you that too many men abandon without realizing it still works. I've seen men regain function they thought was lost, simply by reconnecting with this part of their body, without shame, without pressure. They start small. They stay consistent. And slowly, the system wakes back up. Over time, the results speak for themselves. Better firmness, longer-lasting performance, greater control, and perhaps most importantly, renewed confidence. Because confidence at this stage of life doesn't come from chasing perfection. It comes from knowing your body still responds, still adapts, still wants to work with you, not against you. And if these insights are starting to resonate with you, and you'd like to keep learning more about natural ways to restore your energy, function, and confidence, go ahead and click subscribe. That way, you won't miss the rest of this powerful journey. I'm here to walk with you through every step of it. Now back to the muscles. You can also go a step further by doing specific pelvic floor exercises, like Kegels. But even without a formal workout plan, regular sexual stimulation reminds your nervous system and muscular system to keep firing. It strengthens the mind-body connection. It tells you, again and again, you're not done yet. So if you've been doubting your strength, if you felt like your body is slipping through your fingers, start here. With breath, with care, with intention. Because what you do now can change how you feel, not just today, but for years to come. And as we continue this journey, the next discovery might surprise you most. It's not just about staying functional. It's about protecting yourself from long-term damage, the kind you never saw coming. Let's talk about that next. I once had a patient, 74 years old, smart, independent, proud. He sat down in my office, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "Doc, it feels like my body and my brain are both slowing down. And honestly, I'm scared of what comes next." I could feel the weight behind those words, and he's not alone. For many men, aging brings quiet fears. Erectile dysfunction that creeps in slowly, memory lapses that feel unfamiliar, moments of confusion that used to be sharp. They often go unspoken. But that doesn't mean they're not real. Here's what I told him, and what I want to share with you now. Regular ejaculation, including through masturbation, may be doing far more for your long-term health than you realize. Let's start with your vascular system. Every time you climax, your body releases nitric oxide, a natural compound that supports healthy blood vessels. It helps keep them flexible, responsive, and able to deliver blood where it's needed, including the penis. This alone makes it a vital part of preventing erectile dysfunction. But the benefits go beyond performance, because nitric oxide also plays a role in brain health. Yes, what happens down there can affect what happens up here. Recent studies suggest that regular sexual activity, even solo, reduces inflammation in the body, lowers stress hormones, and stimulates parts of the brain involved in memory, focus, and emotional balance. It's even been linked to better sleep and reduced risk of depression, two things strongly tied to cognitive decline. And here's where it gets personal. Erectile dysfunction doesn't just affect your body, it affects your identity, your relationships, your confidence. I've seen men withdraw from life, not because they're in pain, but because they feel like they're fading. They stop initiating, they stop connecting. They believe it's just what happens with age. But the science says otherwise. Sexual activity helps maintain the systems that keep you engaged, alert, and connected to yourself and others. It's not a miracle fix, but it is a natural rhythm, a habit of staying in motion, a signal to your brain and body that you are still here and still choosing to live fully. So if you've noticed small slips, physically or mentally, don't ignore them. They may be gentle reminders from your body. Not warnings of decline, but invitations to re-engage. And the solution doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a prescription. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to listen to what your body is asking for in quiet, subtle ways, a few minutes of connection, a small act of care. And with time, a noticeable return of strength, not just in your function, but in your mind. And while this conversation started with biology, I want to end this part with something deeper. Because what we're really protecting here isn't just health, it's your dignity. Let's talk about that next. Let me take a moment now, not as your doctor, but as a man who's walked beside thousands of other men through this same journey. If you've made it this far into the series, I already know something about you. You care. You're not giving up. You're still in this. And maybe, just maybe, you've quietly wondered if it's still worth it. If any of this still matters, let me be clear with you, it absolutely does. Too often, we're told that aging is about letting go, about shrinking, about stepping aside so the world can move on without us. But I want you to hear this, clearly, deeply. You are not fading. You are evolving. We don't talk enough about what it feels like to age as a man. At first, the changes are subtle. Less energy, less drive, longer silences. And over time, a question starts to form, not out loud, but inside your chest. Am I still needed? Do I still count? Am I still a man? Let me tell you, yes, yes, and yes. You see, caring for your sexual health isn't about chasing youth. It's about owning your present. It's about saying, I still want to feel. I still want to live fully. I still want to take care of the body that's carried me through this life. And if that starts with something as small, as quiet, as private as reconnecting with your body through masturbation, then so be it. There's no shame in that, only strength. Because this isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about choosing to remain connected to your vitality, to your confidence, to your sense of self. You're not broken. You're not past your prime. You're not too old. You are still here. And that means there is still time. Time to strengthen. Time to heal. Time to grow into the man you were always meant to become. Not in your 30s, but right now, in this stage of life. This journey isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about saying, I'm not done writing my story. And every small act of care, every time you show up for yourself, even privately, sends a message to your body and your brain. I'm still here. I'm still worthy. I still matter. You haven't been left behind. You've been underestimated. And now you're rewriting the narrative with strength, with compassion, and with dignity. In the next and final part of this journey, I'll help you bring everything together. Because this isn't just about what happens in the body. It's about what this stage of life can truly become if you choose to claim it. So here we are. You've made it through this entire journey with me, and I want you to take a moment and let that sink in. Because this wasn't just a video series. It was a reclaiming. We talked about the 6 powerful ways masturbation can support your health after 60. Improved blood flow, keeping your tissues alive and your system responsive, clearing the system, preventing pressure, discomfort, and inflammation. Hormonal balance, helping your mood, sleep, and sense of self return. Pelvic floor strength, restoring physical control and confidence. Protection from ED and cognitive decline, supporting your brain and your manhood. Emotional connection, restoring your dignity, intimacy, and the right to feel. But more than any single benefit, I hope you took something deeper from this, because this was never really just about the penis. This was about you. I've had the privilege of walking beside men who faced aging with strength, doubt, shame, and courage. And you know what I've learned? The moment you choose to stay engaged with your body, not out of fear, but out of respect, that's when everything starts to change. You stop drifting, you stop disappearing. You return to yourself with clarity, with presence, and with power. This chapter of your life is not the end. In many ways, it might just be the most awake, most intentional, most grounded chapter yet. Because now, you're not running on ego or impulse. You're choosing. You're listening. You're leading yourself with wisdom. So whether you've been feeling disconnected, uncertain, or just quietly resigned, please remember, you are still allowed to want, still allowed to feel, still allowed to care for your body without shame. And if that care begins in private, if it looks like a quiet moment of reconnection with your own body, that's not weakness. That's leadership. That's you showing up for yourself. And it matters. It matters to your health. It matters to your confidence. It matters to the people who still love you, still need you, and still look to you for strength. Because what you do now, in this season of life, becomes your legacy, not how long you lived, but how fully you chose to stay alive while living. So take what you've learned here and carry it forward. Make it part of how you move, how you breathe, how you show up every day. Because aging isn't a surrender. Sometimes, it's the first time you're finally free enough to live from truth. You've earned this. Now, go live it. And if you haven't already, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe. Because this journey isn't over. We've only just begun.